flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Heard a vet, I don't know what year, 33 years old. 33 years old, man. He know how to go control the game, not lose the game, put together one or two good drives. He might come out with a win on the road.
Is that enough for like a playoff berth? We're sitting and then they take the Saints spot. Obviously, the Saints have Taysom Hill. Like, should I trust Kirk Cousins? I never know, especially in a big spot.
With this record, the record they got these last three games, I don't know if they'll make it, but you could trust Kurt, man. It's about 10, maybe 12 legit starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and Kurt is one of them guys.
He's calling him Kurt. He's calling him Kurt. Wasn't he calling him Kurt?
I think he was calling him Kurt.
But everybody says the same thing. It's like a comedy bit now. There's like 12 guys. Kirk's one of them.
Yeah,
it's the most damning with faint praise. Like it's never like, no, Kirk Cousins is a top 5 QB. It's
also
like
I feel like he's been a starter now for 7 years, and he's 33 years old, and everyone's still asking the same questions they were asking his second year as a starter in Washington, right? Okay, like what is he? Where does he kind of fall? Is he one? He's kind of like one of the 10 or 12 guys, right? Like, can you trust him in a big spot? I don't know. It's like if you're still debating and hashing it and gnashing your teeth and trying to figure it out. He's 33, been in the league for 10 plus years. I mean, I think it kind of answers itself that there's even debate, right?
I just love the fact that there's 12 guys. He's one of the 12 guys. It's like
as if all 12 guys are equal too, right? I mean, he's one of those 12, and they're all pretty. You can spread them all across the board. You get a Tom Brady, you get a Kirk Cousins, you win a Super Bowl.
Can I trust Kirk? Okay, the answer is I wouldn't.
Why do people call him Kurt? Like, I know that why people call him Kurt in a mocking way, that like there's the good Kirk and then there's bad Kirk is Kurt. But dude, there's some of his peers think his name is Kurt.
Yeah, cuz
right?
Well, yeah, cuz they're not big on names.
It's like Judd in the hallway at Hubbard. Like, oh, yeah,
hello.
Hey, Bob.
Hey.
My name's not Bob. That's fine. Whatever.
How are you today? Good. That's
hello.
Good. No, I don't say names. I'm very careful. I'm very careful not to say names.
But that was Aqib Talib, right? On Good Morning Football there?
Yes.
Aqib Talib and Kirk Cousins' NFL careers have intertwined. I think Aqib he's done now, right? He's just doing media now.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like he was in the NFL for several years when Kirk was in the league. It doesn't know his name. It's hilarious. But he's one of the 12 best in the world. I have no idea what his name is. That one guy. This is Mackey and Judd, by the way. Those are our names, all right? Put some respect on those names. And our executive producer, Declan. Daily Minnesota sports, entertainment, and therapy, and speculation in some cases. And we figure, so Friday is Christmas Eve, and we're all going to take a day on Christmas Eve. We've got some fun stuff from the vault that we're going to play on Mackey and Judd on the Score North YouTube channel and Purple Daily on Friday. But we don't want to just go without Feedback Friday, so we figure let's do a little Feedback Friday on a Wednesday here on the show before we get to write that down predictions down the stretch. Let's start with, and by the way, you can hit us up always through the Score North app. There's a feedback tab. There's also a feature on there where you can send videos to us, and it would be kind of fun to play videos if you guys have like questions or rants or whatever. Like if you're just going to like Stone Cold Steve Austin a couple cans of Surly Furious, put it on film and send it to us through the feedback tab. You can hit us up on Twitter, the YouTube comment section, where we're checking all of it. So Jason Anderson on Twitter says, do you guys see any similarities between this Vikings team and the 1987 Vikings team? The 87 team was full of talent and didn't get hot until the playoffs started. If this team is healthy, could they do something similar and make a run? I mean, so that 87 team made a run as a wild card team, right, through to the NFC Championship game, and then they got beat by the Niners. I was 2. Declan was like -6.
Correct.
So, Judd, you're going to have to take this one. I guess another way to ask it is, how likely is it that this team could make a run like that team did and get hot during the playoffs?
The difference with that team, if you go back in its history and look, is I believe there were 3 replacement games when the players went on strike. I think it started in October of '87, and the Vikings lost all 3. They had one of the worst replacement teams out there. So they actually got more submarined by the replacement team than themselves.
So they would have maybe won the division.
That was a good team, yes. That was a good team, but then they essentially got the worst replacement team possible, which cost them games, which, by the way, counted in the standings. So I get the question and I get the point. I don't know that that's the team to draw the comparison to. And as far as going on a run, I mean, can they win a game? Absolutely. Like in this league, of course they can. Can they win multiple games in the playoffs? That is asking a lot.
That's kind of the thing. Like in the Mike Zimmer, Kirk Cousins 4-year era, they have very rarely gone on a run of like 3 or 4 wins against good, like above 500 teams, especially on the road, because that's the path. Like if they get in, they're going to be the 7th seed or maybe the 6th seed if San Francisco slips down the stretch. So they're going to play road games throughout the entire NFC playoffs. But I painted a scenario for you guys in Realistic Randy on Purple After Dark last night. Right now, if the playoffs started today, the Vikings would be the 7th seed playing at Dallas in the first round. And Dallas, ever since Dak got banged up, and I get it, Cooper Rush came into US Bank Stadium, their backup quarterback, and stuck it to the Vikings. But Dallas has not been playing all that well. Their offense has not been impressive. They're back to kind of a dink and dunk passing game. They're a good team, but they're very, very gettable. You could go on the road, play Dallas, win that game. I don't think anyone would be shocked if they matched up against Dallas in the first round and beat Dallas. Like, I don't know, unless you guys, I wouldn't be shocked. One game, I wouldn't be shocked. And then in the second round, they could see any number of, they could play the Cardinals, who they should have beat if not for a missed 37-yard field goal. They've already beat the Packers. Now they beat them at home. They'd have to play the Packers at Lambeau Field. And the Buccaneers just got shut out last week. 0 points in 3 hours. So, the NFC, I think the Packers are the best team in the NFC, but there are no like superhuman teams in the entire league right now. And so it wouldn't surprise me if the Vikings upset someone in the first round and then had a game that was winnable in the second round. I'm just saying, like, I don't expect them to win 3 or 4 straight playoff games, but this would be the year where you got a bunch of flawed teams in that bracket potentially. I'm just saying.
We've discussed the most important thing, though, and it's why this team is among the many reasons why I am disappointed. This might be among the tops, because to do what we're talking about right now would take the team would have to have the ability to, one, suspend belief and be like, why can't we? Like, look at the path. It's right there. And believe that. Now we all might say, oh, no. But you know what? I saw this in the 2003 Wild. All that matters is that the team says, no, we can. But the other thing to do that is I think the team has to be relatively close and loose. Like the people at the top have to be like, hell yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah, we're the martyr.
Right. I don't think that Zimmer and Cousins, whose personalities in a run like this would be instrumental, I don't think they have the ability to relax the room enough to be like, no pressure here. Now, is there one game where Mike could say nobody believes? Of course, he's tried that before, and I think it's worked. But I'm talking about like back-to-back games in which you're like, you know what? What the hell? Let's just do this. We're really good. Mm-hmm. This is fun. We're a close team. I think the personality of this team stands in the way of what you're talking about almost as much or more so than the actual ability, Phil.
Well, and who are the teams that come, the last 10 or 15 years that come to mind that wild card, they made a run, they won a Super Bowl. I think the Packers did it in 2010, whatever year that was. Mm-hmm. They were like the 6th seed. They made a run, but they also had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Aaron Rodgers,
who was emerging into like, oh my God, he's that good.
Yep, he was superhuman, and that was before the falling out with Mike McCarthy.
And that defense was good too.
It was. The Packers had like a 2 or 3 year run there. Yep, Clay Matthews in his prime.
Yep.
The Giants in 2007 are an example that people love to bring up with the Vikings. Right? Well, if they can just go on a Giants 2007 like run. A couple things about that team. They had a Michael Strahan talent and personality and leader that was stirring the whole drink.
Yep.
They had a big kumbaya, come to Jesus meeting before the season started with the head coach Tom Coughlin. Hey, we got to change some things here. You got to meet us halfway, and Coughlin built a great relationship with the leaders of that team. And then you had Eli Manning going on a ridiculous run. He did this a couple times where he just played the best football of the whole season. Is Kirk capable of that on the road against the best teams, playing his best football, or does he? Eli rises up in a lot of those situations.
Yeah.
Kirk has tended to shrink in a lot of those situations.
Yeah, that's true. And I also, so in the case of the quarterback as well, I always thought until now, Eli was sort of just like a boring, struck me because he sold us really well as a flatline guy. But now that I see him on the show with Peyton, there's more there. Like I don't think there's more to Kirk. Like, I don't think that there's a Kirk behind the scenes where you're like, well, you wouldn't believe what Kirk does.
You wouldn't believe how hilarious this guy is.
Or
right?
like he gets really loose and he's super loose and we're all loose because the quarterback's loose.
Does Kirk ever drink a beer, do you think? Does Kirk ever just sit back and
I think, you know what?
Get a little buzzed on a Friday night?
Don't you guys think Kirk is who Kirk is? Like, I think we know Kirk.
Maybe a Bud Light. Or a Mick Ultra.
Like a very dad thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'll have one. Who wants a split a beer? Does anybody want to split a beer? Does anybody want to split a beer here? I can't drink the whole thing. He belongs on the
I get really
commercial
flushed.
about
I get really
your parents.
Ah,
Kirk belongs on the commercial about
progressive,
your
yeah.
the progressive commercial.
Stop acting like your parents. Yeah.
Man,
Which
look
is
at all
me
this
too.
parking. They must make a mint off parking. Can we stop talking about parking?
the paper airplanes, people, that is me. I always have a paper airplane ticket. So like every time I see that commercial, I'm like, oh crap, I'm becoming my parents.
me.
I have to have a paper airplane
yeah,
ticket.
I love the paper
I have
airplane
to.
ticket. That's funny.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something. And then the Ravens in 2012, similar, right? But John Harbaugh compared to Mike Zimmer, I don't think there is a comparison in terms of leadership and getting guys to buy in. Did you see the clip?
Yeah, I know where you're going.
After the game's over and it's circulating all around, and Mark Andrews comes up. They go for two, they whiff on it, they lose the game, and Mark Andrews, the tight end for the Ravens, walks up. He's mic'd up, and he walks up to John Harbaugh, puts his arm around him, and says, "That was the right decision. That was the right decision. Like we believe in you as a coach." And John Harbaugh got emotional, like on the sidelines, and hugged him, and you know, thanks for showing fight. I don't know, like how many players are walking up to Mike Zimmer and putting their arm around him and saying, "Coach, like we believe in you."
Did you hear the clip before that point though?
Yeah, where he's walking up and down.
He's walking around asking guys if we score here, or he basically says we're going to score, which is great. He's like, we're going to score. What do you want to do? Because he's like, I'll kick the field goal and tie this game. But if you guys think that we should go for two, we will. Whether you agree with that or not, like we can talk about, I don't know about outsourcing that, blah, blah, blah. Just think about the mentality though. So
and he's
so
not
strip
really
away
he's
the decision.
not really outsourcing it. That's the thing. Like he knows what he wants to do, but he's getting guys involved, and he's asking for input to make them feel involved. That's what he's doing.
I was so impressed by the ability in a moment like, I mean, Mike would be going nuts right there. And John Harbaugh's like, what do you guys think? It's just so impressive.
So I guess like my answer at the end of all this discussion is, if you can prove to me that Mike Zimmer is the leader that John Harbaugh has been at times, and that Kirk Cousins has an Eli Manning or even Joe Flacco-like run where he can go on the road against the best teams in the conference and play lights out for 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen either one of those things yet, but they got another, month plus to prove it. Show us something against the Rams. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. People don't change that much.
We'll see.
Sorry, you're not going to get that potential metamorphosis.
Daniel L. McGeed on YouTube says, in terms of the offensive line and especially struggling against Akeem Hicks, we already have a fat guy in Wyatt Davis, but for some bleeping reason they won't play him. What is your theory now that he's just been? I mean, they won't even put him in the heavy. They won't even act. He's not even active on game day. This dude was. There were some first round grades on this guy across the board. Mock drafts. What is your theory on what's happening there?
I think he came into camp. I think he came into the summer portion of the off-season camps overweight, out of shape, fell out of favor. They got mad. They decided we're going to move poor Oli Udo, a tackle, to guard. Decided that for 2000, I mean, this is a total guess. Decided for 2021, Wyatt Davis was a lost cause, and basically said, if you can't come into camp in the shape that we requested, and to be clear, and I'm not defending them totally here, but to be clear, there's a difference between you're a heavy set guy that plays guard and you just get fat. So like you can't be like, but coach, I got fat on purpose, unless they tell you to. So I think that they got mad, buried him, and he can't catch up and couldn't. And look, I mean, for the most part, this team holds its young players incredibly accountable. It doesn't mean that they won't play them, but I mean, what they did to Dantzler because he didn't have a good camp surprised me too. Like, I thought that was a lot. This guy played as a rookie because he had to, and then they got Breland, who was obviously from the get-go no great shakes. I mean, veteran guy, but
yeah, he was like a $2 million.
And then the next thing you know, Dantzler, I believe was down in week 1. They didn't, inactive, and so this is how Mike operates. I will remain amazed though that they didn't like that when your option was to move a tackle to guard, that they didn't try to do something else.
And I don't want to fully exonerate the player here, because if he showed up, if he wasn't professional, or he showed up out of shape or something, like, dude, come on, it's time to grow up. You're in the NFL. It's time to be in shape. But how many offensive linemen have to come through here and either not be developed or be put in the doghouse, underperform in some way? Garrett Bradbury. Now, Brian O'Neill has made it through, whether they found a way to connect with him on the coaching side or whether he was just super talented and driven and he was going to figure it out regardless of the coaching staff. But, I mean, my God, under Mike Zimmer, how many guards have they run through? It's literally like 16 or 17 starting guards. I also pulled up here on NFL.com the pre-draft scouting report for Wyatt Davis, and I think there's some clues in here. Because Mike Zimmer and the coordinators that he's had on offense, right? They love nimble, quick offensive linemen, zone run block scheme guys. And Wyatt Davis, he's listed at 6'4", 315, 320 pounds. Like, he's a big dude for a guard. And some of the weaknesses in here, I think, are going to stand out in terms of, like, maybe he just wasn't a fit for what they want the system to be blocking scheme wise in 2021. So, and some of these are very hilarious. These are just like classic football scouting phrases, but average feet to make block adjustments on moving bodies. So they call him sort of a phone booth blocker as opposed to a guy that can get out in space.
Football.
That's right. Lethargic, moving from first to second block on combos, right? That's a problem.
Football.
Zone run blocks now. You'll like this one. He will default into maul mode rather than trusting his technique.
Football.
And prematurely wanders away from home base at times in pass protection and has a lack of short area quickness to close down gaps against blitzers.
Football.
So I feel like a lot of it's like he has a hard time, getting out, covering space, etc. He's just kind of a phone booth blocker.
That's what he is. But Zim
they kind of need that in pass protection.
And Zim also specifically said, at some point in time after last season, Mike went into chapter and verse about how we've been a zone blocking team, but I want some big fat guys. Like I want big guards. And so Mike specifically said, we're going to, if not completely transition, at least get some more size. Because, I mean, the problem is the Vikings keep playing guards that are the definition of this is how you get your ass kicked. And it's like, let's do it again. And to Mike's credit, Mike finally said, we need some big bleeping people. Yeah. And yet here we are with, poor Mason Cole, who's fine if he's not playing Akeem Hicks. But Akeem Hicks is literally taking him like a toy on Christmas Day. It's like, here's a Mason Cole toy. Yeah. Oh, boy, I'm going to throw this thing around for a while. Here's a Garrett Bradbury doll. So it's a very – I don't understand the thought process necessarily between, like, what they want to do and what they actually do sometimes.
It's sort of like they've built the team in different fragments with no relation to each other, right? We want a zone run blocking scheme so we can get out in space and give Dalvin Cook, the ability to run wild. But then we have a non-mobile quarterback that starts to wilt under pressure,
Bingo.
and so, and then I don't know.
Bingo. That's exactly it.
Jeff Hill via the Score North app chimes in. He says, to our conversation about, this always ongoing conversation about Kirk Cousins' contract, a player making over 20% of the cap has never won a Super Bowl, but the regular season NFL MVP has also never won the Super Bowl during the same season. Not that Kurt will ever win MVP, just saying. This is when he sent this in, I was like, really? So this is wrong. There's actually been 10 MVPs who have won a Super Bowl, but none in the last 20 years, which is kind of interesting. My theory on that is, and we'd have to go cross-reference this, but a lot of the MVPs are probably making a lot of money too, like top-paid quarterbacks and whatnot. Aaron Rodgers, and those players played amazing, but the rest of the roster was not able to be built up enough for the team to win a Super Bowl. I don't know.
I like it.
But I just that is a number that still has not been cracked. And it's not even 20%, it's 13%. No player, quarterback, making over 13% of a team's salary cap has ever won the Super Bowl. And so you almost have to, with a guy like Kirk Cousins, don't you almost have to draw that line? I think it'd be like $25 million or something of next year's cap. Wouldn't you have to say, all right, guy, it has to be under $25 million because the data proves that you can't win a Super Bowl. We can't win a Super Bowl unless you're making under $25 million.
And that doesn't mean that you cannot keep a great quarterback. What it means is that quarterback has to be willing to work with the team to restructure constantly.
Yeah, so you can get other bodies in, the extra pass rusher.
So like those guys can play for your team for sure, but there has to be a partnership. Not a I'm the employee here and I'm really good and I need your money. So that's where it gets dicey. Because if you have a QB who's like, okay, yeah, cool, let's defer that, and I'll keep my payday in line with the cap, you're probably fine. As soon as the guy says, I'm going to break the bank, you're probably screwed.
Yeah. Joke is Wild 77 on YouTube says, go get Deshaun Watson from the Texans and trade Kirk Cousins. Where are you guys at with Deshaun Watson now?
I'm not doing anything until this whole thing plays out.
Let's say he settles all 30 plus. Let's say he, what is it, like 35 or 37 cases or something? Let's say they're all settled out of court. Then where are you guys at?
I mean, if they're all settled outside of court and he's not suspended or doesn't face any type of expulsion, then yeah, I'd be in. I'd be in on Deshaun. Deshaun Watson's a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins, but also, isn't Houston probably going to ask for like multiple first-round picks and everything else? I don't know. I think there's better paths to compete without surrendering all that just to get Deshaun Watson, who clearly has also played football in over a year. So I'm leaning towards I'm out on Deshaun Watson.
I think I'm out. He's really good, and he is better than Kirk Cousins, and even with a garbage organization, he's like 28 and 25 over 3 years or whatever it is. I mean, he had a 20-plus point lead. Wasn't it in the conference championship game?
I think divisional game.
Okay,
it was divisional, but like 24-0. I think the Texans were up.
Yeah, so he's amazing. But I would have a really hard time rooting for his success just based on everything that happened, and for that reason, I'm out.
I'm out.
It seems, if it was one or two suits, I'd be like, okay, not great. But when it's 25 or whatever it is, like that's a lot of that's a lot of problem.
You're probably a creep.
Yeah,
you're probably a creep.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple other things that we'll get to write that down predictions, but a lot of at least on my timeline, a lot of feedback off that Timberwolves loss last night to a depleted Dallas team. Now the Wolves were also very depleted, but they did have the two best players on the court, and they lost that game. And a lot of anti-D'Lo stuff here from Michael Pearson. He's not a max talent at all. Ben Brown, he was awful today. Another person says the question is he worth it? Are the highs worth the lows? I say no. So he went 4 of 18 last, and he's been great this season for the Wolves relative to, the last couple of years where he just hasn't played defense. He wasn't getting along with Ryan Saunders. Probably hasn't been the best leader. But this is now the 7th time this season. So basically once every 3.5 games where he has shot 32% or worse from the field in a game. It's hard to overcome when he goes 4 for 18 from the field. You lose by 10 points.
Yes.
4 for 18, you lose by 10 points or whatever it was. If he just goes 8 for 18 and a couple of those are 3-pointers, like that's an extra 11, 12 points right there. So it's tough, man. He's been better, but it's tough to swallow these awful shooting performances.
Here's my question, Phil. Are you willing to accept this though? Because to your point, before last night's game, there was a stretch there where he was magnificent a lot. Now before that, he wasn't. As the staunchest Timberwolves fan on this show, and possibly one of the staunchest, well, certainly the staunchest in Seattle, are you willing to accept this? Because I think this is him.
Yeah, it's there's so many guards in the last 20, 25 years in the NBA that are kind of volume scorers. They're small, they don't play amazing defense, and he's certainly not in the Kobe Bryant. Think about the great, ball handler guards who could score 25, 30 points. Like he's not destined to be like an MVP caliber player. So I think my answer is in 2 parts. I can live with it if the expectation is get to the playoffs, which is where it's at right now. The expectation for the next couple of years is get to the playoffs, just get back into relevant mode, finish above 500 a couple times, and then reevaluate. If he hasn't figured out a way to be more consistent offensively, then he's the one at that max salary that prevents you from being a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. Like you can't be shooting 32%, 25%, 15% in basically a third of the games this season. It's really bad. I think he's shooting below 40% for the season.
He is. Not good.
I mean, we used to rip Ricky Rubio for shooting 38%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's D'Lo, 38 right now? 39?
Yeah, it's like 38, 37. It's not good.
We used to trash Ricky Rubio for not being able to hit shots.
But then
and he's a better shot maker than Rubio. Don't get me wrong,
but then he'll have the stretch of games where he's really good, and you're like, I think he might be really good again, and then he's he teases you.
Yeah,
he teases you.
It's frustrating, and that's a game last night where it's like I know that you're missing your best defensive players, but they're without their best player too. Just go win that game. You got the 2 best players in the court. Go win that game.
No Porzingis last night.
Yeah, just go win.
No Hardaway Jr., who on Sunday night here was magnificent.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah. There's also one more thing here. A lot of debate in the YouTube comment section about deep dish pizza. I think we've sparked a big debate.
It's not surprising. This is a hot button issue.
In America.
This is a Mackey and Judd hot button issue. You got politics, you got COVID, you got deep dish.
Personally, I am a one-issue voter. For any presidential candidate, Senate candidates, if you don't like deep dish, I'm sorry. I can't get on board. Can't get on board with your candidacy.
I'm willing to bet Trump loved deep dish, Phil. I'm willing to bet.
It's great pizza.
I'm a one-issue voter. Deep dish pizza. So, all right, Feedback Friday. You can always hit us up via the Score North app. You can hit us up on Twitter. I'm in on Thin Crust. I'm a big Thin Crust.
I'm running on the Thin Crust platform for 24.
Start a new party. Hit us up. YouTube comment sections, Twitter, and you can also give us a follow on TikTok and Instagram at Score North, where we're pumping out content too. So, all right, we got to get to it. Write that down. Is coming down to the wire here. I do have to warn everyone though. The race is so close, and the NFL season leaks over into January that we're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna have the full tabulations on batting averages until into mid-January at some point. But let's get to the accountability session. We can discuss